Hello everyone, Sable here, back again with another UUCL match, and finally I get to yap about myself in this week 2 match. I'm technically 1-0 at this point, but only by technicality since I didn't actually get to play my match. I just got awarded the win because my opponent wasn't able to make it to that game. So I finally get to actually get my debut and get my first set of this new UU format in. I'm excited for that. I I mean, I'm not gonna say I don't like to talk about myself because sometimes I do, but in terms of like play style or whatever, I don't know that I have much to say on UU. I haven't been playing this tier as much lately. I skipped the last UU team tournament before this, which I want to say was UU FPL. Just was getting a bit tired of the meta game with rep. I did enter the individual UU Open before this, and I got second place there, so I think I've still got it. I usually place pretty well in all those indivs and do okay in team tournaments. Stylistically, I don't know that I can say there's like a specific thing I would like hitch my style to. So I'm gonna see how it evolves as this tournament goes on. Jungler, I talked a bit about last week. I don't think I mentioned what team I'm on. So I'm on the Cinnabar MissingNo Names. Not quite sure what the name means beyond the fact that Cinnabar Island, infamously, you can surf off the coast of it after doing the like old man glitch. Get missing no there or get Pokemon that are like way over level 100. So I do like that I got on the team that has like the most RBY name possible in this tournament. So love that. Big fan of my teammates, big fan of my managers. And I'm going to go up against the Chungler, who, if I recall correctly, is on the Mikan Island Monster Carrots. Mouthful of a name, but better than something like Gilderoy Low Kicks, all shade intended. Stop using Harry Potter names. Anyway, plenty of yapping. Let's just get right into it, and I'll talk about why I made some choices as we go. This game wasn't too long ago for me. As of the time I'm recording this, I played it, I want to say, like 2 days ago. I don't know. Time is hard to follow. Anyway, Kadabra versus Hypno. I kind of figured on getting a good lead matchup here because I took a quick look at the kind of things that he was bringing and felt like this would be the right guy. I go for the Psychic because I worry that he might be a bit of a gambler and just immediately hypnosis me and try to go for it anyway. So I figure 40% hypnosis mischance plus 20% chance that Kadabra just crits it gives me about 50-50 odds that I'm going to just take it out before it does anything. So doing that, and I'm also happy to bait Hypno in and weaken it a little bit for my team. Unfortunately, I take the instant hit from Hypnosis through Thunderwave, but I'm kind of trying to get the right turn to switch out, and I do call it correctly, so I get Dragonite in, although not on the greatest matchup, but still, I will take another Para on this Kang. Looking like a bit of a bulky team from Chungler after that Hypno lead, but I mean, Hypno Kang, pretty standard brings. I go to Lapras, which I think in retrospect, I wasn't the biggest fan of this, but I figured, if I catch a Blizzard, amazing. If I get in on Body Slam and don't take a para, that's fine. But Chungler making a bit of a call out play, and it works out pretty nicely. After getting paralyzed, I'm not willing to make a call out with Thunderbolt, so I just Blizzard and let the Lapras come in. And now I take my chance to pivot to Haunter. So here I'm kind of seeing it as like, I just need to press some damage onto some things now and leave sleep for later if I even go for it. But I'm pretty happy to just get a big hit off on Lapras for free there. So now I get to hit the Hypno too, and now it's just a question of, is the Haunter going to come in? I think no, I don't think he's going to risk it, so I just go for the boom and remove that Hypno. I have my reasons for the things that I'm doing, but I'll get to those later. I send in Dragonite, actually anticipating Haunter, which can't KO it from here without a crit. And I do want this Haunter paralyzed and removed. I think here I kind of weighed the options mentally between just T-waving this and throwing out a Blizzard or something to catch Kangaskhan coming in. I think retrospectively, by position, I probably should have just thrown the Blizzard, but in this case I called it wrong, threw out a T-wave, and hit the Kangaskhan with that. I kind of was thinking like, okay, if Kangaskhan comes in, I do want to weaken this down so that I have sleep threat on Haunter and Lapras with a Hypno later. So I think if I'd called that first Blizzard, this would have looked really good because Kang would be nearly KO'd now instead of at 64. So now I've got a bit more work to do, unfortunately. I just send in Hypno. thinking, okay, I can crit it, it can para, like there's a lot of ways this can go right for me. And now I've got a big sleep threat here, but against Dodrio, it's very hard to click that. So I think let me T-wave this and then figure out a way out of here. Unfortunately, I get crit, so this is not looking ideal. And I do call out Chungler here. I feel like, okay, this is a pretty good spot for Dodrio to agility if you're greedy. I feel like he's going to be greedy, so I take the chance, get my Lapras in, and now I basically super punish this since it was already faster than my Lapras anyway. And I just T-Bolt thinking that like this has to crit me to KO me, and this covers for a Lapras entry. So with that, I remove the big threat. And now my Haunter, or my Hypno is still just out of range of this Haunter. So I'm thinking if I sack this Lapras, I am pretty threatening here to take this out with a Hypnosis, and then there's not really a good switch in. So I send Hypno specifically to bait the boom, and I stay in because I can see a win path here even if I do eat that boom. It's not ideal. I think really earlier I needed to be more aggressive with the Dragonite, make some more callouts with the Lapras, etc. And at this point, though, I did need the Haunter gone because, as you're going to see, my last is actually Persian, which I figure can beat the Lapras and could beat whatever is the last thing left after that with a little bit of luck. I mean, it's also like a lot of things can go right for me. It can miss Blizzard. Like, there's a lot of ways that this can end up being better for me than it's supposed to. But I was kind of sad that the Hypno or the Haunter ended up persisting this long into the game because it made it hard to use Persian. I go for T-Bolt thinking I can get a para. I can get a very, I don't know. It's mainly just the para because crit wouldn't have even KO'd from there. Lapras is so bulky. But take out the Lapras, and I'm actually very happy to see the last here is Doug because this is one of the things Persian can actually beat at 47%. So, spoiler, there's two outs that Persian can have versus this. If it has Body Slam, 30% Body Slam para takes this out. And if it has Bubble Beam, which most Persian do have, then Bubble Beam has a 33% chance to drop speed, and that also beats Doug Trio here. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, just don't get crit, get the luck, get it, and it works out this time. So Persian does win this game. Definitely a little bit of BS at the end for me to win that. I think I could have made some callouts earlier to make that an easier game instead of it being a very unideal, like weighted coin flip against me to win it. I do think like things like Dodrio critting the Hypno definitely sucked for me, but ultimately like they're not very unlikely. They're only a bit more unlikely than that Bubble Beam win. And over the course of the game, I think Chungler made a lot of nice callouts and predictions. That body slam with Kang onto my Lapras was good. The T-Bolt from Lapras that I called out, I thought that was good going to Haunter on it. I do think maybe this team idea may not have been the right level of coherent. I think Haunter is not very threatening on teams that lead off with paralysis because you kind of block your own sleep. And unlike Hypno and Lapras, you don't have that offensive pressure backing it to get the sleep without just booming things. So I think in retrospect, maybe this Haunter was the misplaced piece on this team that made it harder for me to win this than it should have been and made it come down to whether I get a Bubble Beam drop or not. So I do think in retrospect, my team choice here was a little bit messier than it needed to be. I think a different guy here could have been the right choice instead of running the Haunter here and just getting kind of pushed out of sleep. Chungler's side, very physically offensive. I think my Persian is actually very good into this team, except for this Haunter lead. And if this Haunter gets put to sleep or taken out or takes any damage from Kadabra off the lead, then this Persian's very well poised to do ridiculous damage to the team. So I do think on that part I got the matchup right. As for Chungler's team, very heavy lean into just very high physical offense. Not much support behind that, which I think is totally fine in current UU as far as I have seen, but definitely carries its risks where you can get blown out like by a last Pokemon Kuno situation. Even like a late Persian can come in and wipe this up, or a late Kadabra. Just as soon as like the one thing in your way, like the Hypno or the Haunter, depending if you're talking about Kadabra, Persian, or Lapras if it's an Articuno, those things can definitely clean up this team. So like you kind of have to protect all three of these until you know what your opponent has. And I think that's the main issue of a team like this. But I've said it throughout these videos and I'll keep saying it, like you cannot be protected against everything in RBY beat UU. Like it's just not possible. So when I say these things, it's more pointing out where the strengths and weaknesses of a team are, not, oh, you should have thought about this, because covering those things means giving up something else. So you have to do the best you can and play to cover those weaknesses. And Jungler did pretty good in this game. Ultimately, like it was an advantaged end game for him, but just didn't work out. So game 2, and here I came into this with a different idea. You may recognize what this idea kind of is if you watched Maris's game against Magialis last week. So I've got the Ninetales lead. I confused Ray right off the bat because I could imagine him just ripping the Hypnosis against me. And if so, it's pretty unfavored for him. Goes for the T-Wave, which I think is the right play versus lead Ninetales, but I wasn't sure how familiar he'd be with this kind of idea. And if he would see that, or if you just go for the Hypnosis. Ultimately, Confuse Ray is still kind of threatening here, and I assume on his side that there's not really a Ninetales switch in. So I'm pretty happy to just beat away at this Hypno and take any free turns I get, which in the end, 2 turns so far from Confusion, I'm pretty happy with. My Ninetales might be parried, but it's still at full until this turn. But Seismic Toss, interesting. Like at this point, I'm thinking, is this just like a Hypno with no Psychic? What is going on here? But he does have Psychic, and it's my assumption is Seismic Toss was covering for me, like switching to Hypno or something and trying to preserve this as a sleep blocker. But ultimately, I just wanted damage. That's all I was looking for. Now, Ninetales a bit out of range of a Body Slam, so here I assume I'm gonna get an Earthquake from Chungler, and I think let's just go Moltres and reveal it really early, double fire. And so Fire Blast, I'm ecstatic to see this Haunter switching into Fire Blast. I'm not really happy to see a Haunter because of the idea I had with this team, but I am very happy it's willing to lose half its HP like that so quickly. Now here, we've got a bit of a mind game going on. I can go Ninetales, and if I catch Hypnosis with Ninetales, then Ninetales is not KO'd by anything Haunter does and can threaten it out with Fire Blast or just KO it. If I stay in, Haunter is faster and Hypnosis messes Moltres up, but really it's just down to does he attack or does he go for Hypnosis? And he does go for Hypnosis in this case, but I do wake up, so it's actually like slightly nice for me that I got free burn chip, even if it doesn't matter to whether my Moltres will KO. And now I think there's no way he goes for it twice. He has to think I'm going to go to Ninetales, but he actually just stays and goes for it, which I have to say, very nice call out. I got owned here. There's just nothing I can say about that except I got obliterated for that double call out. So very nice move from him, but I am kind of thinking like, hey, this Haunter is getting really low, and spoiler alert, I do have a Persian in back, so I'm happy that this Haunter is taking all this chip and gonna end up in Persian range pretty quickly. I think here maybe it's a mistake for me to even switch this Moltres out, but I am thinking like this Haunter is not super threatening to my Hypno. Boom does like 25% now. So I kind of want to just dance around it and make it take some burn chip. And that 256 is so bad for Chungler. Like, genuinely, that is a nice bailout for me. And now this turn, I just Fire Blast it, take it out, and I think, okay, I'm ready to give up my Ninetales now. So there goes the Tails. I've removed the biggest obstacle for my Persian doing what it's supposed to do. And now I'm just going to fight Kang versus Kang and weaken this thing. Chungler clicking Earthquake, anticipating that I'm going to click Counter, but I'm just here for my raw damage. That's all I want. This team is just raw damage output. And so with a crit, like this is just like very much the RNG is favoring me in this game for sure. I'd say the only place I could say it didn't is like the Hypnosis double hitting my Moltres, but like it's 60-40, it is favored to Chungler for sure. And you can't disrespect the fact that he made 2 callouts in a row and got me on the 50-50 twice. So like he deserved to hit those for sure, and pretty much everything else this game has gone my way. That 256 Nightshade was bad. The critical hit from this Kang was bad. It's just that and the double self hit on Hypno. Like I'm really getting bailed here. And now comes the really egregious RNG. So Kang's gonna get a Paraslam crit on Lapras and it's gonna miss. And I'm just gonna keep hitting it, and guess what happens? So I get a full Lapras given to me for free. At this point, like we're not really playing the game. I do have to say, I think even if we go back to here, From this point, I'm ready to sack the full Kang. If I 256 and got crit blizzed, I would have been fine with it because I have Hypno ready to go. Comes in on Lapras. Sleep advantage is mine. I already have something sacked to sleep, and I'd be up in a 3v3, but I have sleep open with Hypno on Lapras. So, like, by this point, like, granted, there's already been some RNG moments up to here, but at this point, I'm already feeling like my double fire has kind of done its job despite kind of getting owned by Haunter at the end a little bit. And kind of just feeling this is already going my way big time. If my Kang had just killed this Kang and then immediately died to Lapras without doing any damage, I would have been pretty happy. But genuinely, like, the game just decided to hand me it from here, and like it's not even a game anymore. So sorry, Chungler, the game did not let you play. It just decided I win today. And that's how Pokemon goes sometimes. So it sucks. And the really like disgusting thing, aside from getting a full Lapras free, is like this isn't even an Electabuzz range at this point. So here I just Quake it because just Quake is enough to put it in Persian range, and so I'm content that Persian is going to win the game by itself after this. So Persian comes in to clean up. There's no Haunter to stop it. So Slash. And now we get Persian versus Doug V2. And this one's going to be funny because I am going to do the thing again with Bubble Beam, but this one doesn't actually matter. It's just a little bit of insurance because Persian's not 2-hit KO'd by Earthquake. So this Doug would have to crit through the Persian, crit through the Hypno, crit through my last that I won't be talking about. But Bubble Beam drop makes it a little bit safer to just not have to risk a second crit chance from Doug Trio and risk it going crit, crit, crit through my whole team. After the speed drop, it's even slower than Hypno, so like that's enough to make the game much more tenable for me and guarantee that I win it. Ultimately, I think game 2, I had a really, really good matchup into Chungler's team. There's just no switch in anywhere for either of my two fire types. By the time we even got to the Haunter, like, sleep was open for me versus a team that had no way to switch into sleep. But like, on top of that matchup differential here, the game just decided, let's give her everything. So when you get a matchup that already has like is very favorable, I would say, and then the game also hands you every crit, you dodge moves, you get a 256, like it's just very hard to lose. So I don't think this one's very reflective of Jungler's game. I think this team is like fine, but it is very weak to fire types. Kangaskhan, arguably the worst normal against fire types. Persian with Slash doesn't have to worry as much about burn, and it's faster than them. Kang, slower than Tails, speed tied with Moltres, and only 40 special means that you get destroyed by Fire Blast, even without crits, without burns. Dodrio, at least, like, hard to switch into, but like you can kind of pivot around Kang as I did in this game. So I think the double fire was just very brutal on Chungler's team, and when you add any good RNG to that, it's going to be impossible to play the game. So I think he did his best and really made a game out of it, especially with like those Haunter callouts. It's just hard to do too much. I think on my end, definitely was shaking off the rust a little bit because I could have pivoted all around the Haunter a little bit, let it get chipped down, and then Persian would have been able to pick it off anyway. So I wouldn't have had to give up so much to the Haunter, like giving up the Moltres that could have done a billion more damage to this team. Anyway, I think game 1 was a good game and I robbed it a little bit, and then game 2 I mega robbed. So Chungler playing pretty well. I have to say, like, gotta commend him on the play, but game did not want to let it go that way. I think matchup wise, I'm pretty happy with the matchups I picked out, but definitely have to shake off a little rust that I don't get caught out by the next person I play if I don't get so fortunate with the RNG. So ultimately, I think Chungler is playing pretty well, but getting unlucky so far in UUCL. And hopefully can bounce back in the next ones. And that's about all I've got for this game. I'll be getting into the rest of the week 2 games after this. Let me know what you think in the comments. Click like or subscribe if you want to make the number go up for me. Subscribe is a good button to click if you want to see more of these because I'm releasing one every single day, barring any breaks I need to take for any reasons, but I've been mostly able to just upload one a day. So I hope you stick around and keep watching them, but let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.